What if I told you there exists a technique so powerful, so direct that it was hidden away for centuries, spoken only in whispers among ascetics and mystics in the shadowed caves of India? A method not of slow manifestation, but of instant creation. Something the sages called a forbidden practice, because once you learn it, reality bends to your intention like clay in your hands. For most of us, manifestation feels like a distant dream. Vision boards, affirmations and rituals that stretch on for months, hoping the universe will eventually respond. But what if manifestation was never meant to be a waiting game? What if the true knowledge of the ancients was about collapsing, time itself bringing the unseen into form the very moment desire is born? The story of this hidden practice begins in the sacred landscapes of India, in ancient temples carved from living stone, among chants that echoed through the corridors of time. Yogis guarded teachings too potent for ordinary seekers. These techniques were never written openly. Instead, they were encoded in cryptic verses of forgotten scriptures, guarded by secrecy and passed only from master to disciple when the seeker proved ready. And why were they hidden? Because instant manifestation is not a trick of the mind, it's an alignment with the very current of creation itself. In the wrong hands, this knowledge could be destructive, but in the right hands, it could liberate a soul from lifetimes of struggle. In this video, I will take you deep into this forbidden wisdom. We'll explore the origins of this technique, the philosophy that underpins it, and the reason it was considered too dangerous for the uninitiated. More importantly, we'll unravel how it works, and how you, if ready, can begin to touch this ancient current for yourself. Stay with me, because by the end, you'll understand why sages called this the instant path, and why it still remains the most closely guarded spiritual secret of India.
To understand the forbidden Indian technique of instant manifestation, we have to step into the labyrinth of India's spiritual history, where myth, philosophy and mystical practice are woven together so tightly that separating them is almost impossible. In the oldest texts, the Vedas, manifestation is not spoken of in the language we use today. Instead, they describe the universe itself as a vibration, Shabda Brahman, the cosmic sound from which all things arise. Creation was never considered a distant act of God's, but an ongoing process, fueled by consciousness itself. To the rishis, thoughts were not intangible daydreams. They were currents of subtle energy with the power to carve reality. Later came the Upanishads, where sages began to whisper of techniques that could bend this creative principle. They spoke of the sankalpa, a seed of intention planted so purely in the mind that the universe had no choice but to respond. Unlike casual wishing, sankalpa was precise, unwavering, and aligned with dharma, the cosmic order. To master it was to hold a fragment of the divine creative force, but not all knowledge was shared freely. In Tantric circles, there existed practices hidden under layers of metaphor and symbolism. Mantras were given not as words, but as living codes. Mudras and breath patterns were taught in ways that could change the state of consciousness instantly. The reason they were guarded was simple. When a human being learns how to bypass time and cause desire to materialize, without delay, temptation becomes immense. Without discipline, power corrupts quickly. Legends tell of wandering yogis in India who demonstrated this forbidden mastery. Stories describe sages who could summon food in barren lands, manifest fire without flint, or call down rain with a single mantra. To the ordinary villagers, they were miracle workers. To the initiated, they were simply those who had unlocked the hidden mechanics of consciousness. Philosophically, the heart of this teaching is tied to the non-dual vision of Advaita Vedanta, that there is no separation between the self and the universe. If reality itself is consciousness, then to know the self fully is to command creation itself. Manifestation is no longer asking the universe for something, it is the universe speaking through you. And yet, across centuries, these practices were often buried beneath layers of ritual, or encoded so heavily in scripture that their direct meaning was almost impossible to find. Teachers feared what might happen if these instant methods fell into hands driven by greed, ego, or revenge, so they remained hidden, spoken in secret caves, guarded by oaths, passed only to the rare seeker who had conquered not only desire but themselves. This is the backdrop of the forbidden technique, a tradition that stretches back thousands of years, cloaked in philosophy and myth, and yet always hinting at a truth too powerful to remain entirely buried. The heart of this forbidden Indian technique lies a principle both breathtakingly simple and endlessly profound. Reality does not unfold in time, it unfolds in consciousness. And the moment consciousness decides without hesitation, time itself collapses. The ancient masters called this ekagrachita, a mind so one-pointed that it becomes like a laser piercing through the fabric of possibility. In ordinary life, when we want something, our thoughts scatter. One moment we desire, the next we doubt. We hope, then we fear. This constant oscillation creates delay. The universe responds, but it responds to the mixture, half belief, half doubt, half desire, half resistance. That's why manifestation for most feels like a slow unfolding. But the forbidden technique begins where ordinary wishing ends. It starts with dissolving the duality between self and desire. The yogis taught that the moment you separate me from what I want, you push it away. Desire becomes an object outside of you and therefore distant. But when you merge with the desire, when you embody it so completely that you and the outcome are indistinguishable, the universe recognizes no gap. It simply is. Imagine this: a sculptor holds a block of stone. He doesn't hope to create a statue. He already sees the form within, and with every strike, he simply reveals what is inevitable. That is how the mind must hold an intention, not as a wish floating in the future, but as an inevitability already alive within the present. The technique, in its simplest expression, rests on three pillars. Clarity of intention, not a vague hope, but a razor-sharp vision. Ancient teachers insisted that a single word, symbol, or image could hold more power than an elaborate ritual if the mind behind it was clear. Union of self and desire. The state where you no longer try to manifest, but instead become the living vibration of what you seek. This is why mantras were considered dangerous, intoned correctly. They fuse the chanter with the desired state instantly. Immediate alignment, the refusal to negotiate with doubt. Yogis trained themselves to enter a state where hesitation simply did not exist. In that space, manifestation is not gradual, it is immediate. To the outsider, this sounds like magic. To the initiated, it is simply the science of consciousness. What we call instant manifestation is not about summoning something from nothing. It's about collapsing the illusion of separation, so that what already exists in potential steps forward into the field of the real. This is why the practice was forbidden. It bypasses the slow path of karmic unfolding. A practitioner who can anchor desire into being at will is no longer bound by ordinary cause and effect. And when that leash is removed, the temptation to misuse it grows. Ancient teachers feared that without purification of intent, seekers could summon destruction as easily as prosperity. To go deeper into this forbidden Indian technique, we need to untangle the paradoxes the sages deliberately wove into it. They understood a dangerous truth. The more directly you hand someone power, the more quickly that power corrupts. So instead of teaching instant manifestation plainly, they encoded it in myths, symbols, and paradoxes. One such paradox is this: the more you chase desire, the further it runs from you. The moment you release it, it arrives. On the surface, this seems contradictory. How can manifestation be instant if you must let go of wanting? But the secret here lies in understanding the difference between craving and embodiment. Craving arises from a sense of lack. Embodiment arises from fullness. When the yogi releases craving, the vibration of lack disappears. What remains is pure identity with the fulfilled state, and that is when manifestation becomes immediate. The Tantric masters illustrated this through the image of Ardhanarishvara, the divine union of Shiva and Shakti in one form. Shiva is consciousness, Shakti is creation. Alone, they are incomplete. Together, they are instant manifestation. In the same way, when your consciousness, Shiva, holds an intention, and your energy, Shakti, embodies it without hesitation, reality cannot resist. It blooms instantly. Another layer is hidden in the science of sound. Mantras like Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahman, were not affirmations in the modern sense. They were living keys. When uttered with perfect concentration and resonance, the chanter is not asking or affirming. They are declaring identity with the highest reality. In that state, there is no gap between thought and creation. The manifestation is instantaneous, because the practitioner is not separate from the field of creation. They are the field. But here lies the danger. Misuse does not always appear as something dark or violent. Often it's subtle. A practitioner can entangle themselves in illusions of ego, summoning wealth not to serve but to inflate, seeking power not to uplift but to dominate. When this happens, the very same practice that liberates can ensnare the soul deeper into bondage. This is why teachers veiled the teachings with warnings, myths of curses, or tales of seekers destroyed by their own impatience. These were not simply superstitions, they were safeguards. A little-known fact, certain yogic sects believed this technique should only be revealed after 12 years of rigorous discipline, including silence, fasting, and breath practices, not because the method was difficult, but because the purification of the mind had to precede the power. Instant manifestation requires instant clarity. Without it, what you create may turn against you. And yet, the advanced teaching whispers something even bolder. There is no such thing as time to manifestation. The very idea of waiting implies separation. If consciousness is infinite and present everywhere, then the moment you truly know, the moment you embody. Revealing a forbidden technique is meaningless unless it can be lived. The ancients were clear about this. Wisdom is not a collection of words. It is a current that must pass through your own being. So let's step into practice. The first step is stilling the waters of the mind. Imagine dropping a pebble into a turbulent river. The ripples scatter in all directions. That is what happens when you try to manifest with a restless mind. Your intention breaks apart, weakened. The yogis began with breath, because breath is the bridge between body and consciousness. A simple technique is box breathing. Inhale for 4 counts. Hold for 4. Exhale for 4. Hold for 4. Do this until the pulse of thought slows and the mind begins to rest in silence. This silence is the foundation. The second step is forging the seed of intention, the sankalpa. Don't use long, complicated statements. Reduce your desire into its essence, like distilling perfume from a flower. One word, one image, one mantra. For example, if it is abundance you seek, don't scatter your energy across 10 desires. Instead, hold the essence of abundance, already fulfilled, as a single living symbol in your heart. Now comes the heart of the technique, embodiment. Close your eyes and breathe into your body. Do not imagine the desire as something in the future. Instead, feel what it is to already be the person who has it. If it is love you seek, feel your body soften as if embraced right now. If it is prosperity, sense the stability, the gratitude, the dignity of already living it. The nervous system cannot tell the difference between imagined and real. In this state, the desire ceases to be a hope and becomes a lived vibration. The fourth step is the collapse of doubt. This is the razor's edge. Yogis trained for years to reach a place where hesitation dissolves. But you can practice it by catching yourself in the act of disbelief. When the thought, "What if it doesn't happen?" arises, do not fight it. Instead, return to embodiment. Remind the body and mind, it is already here. Doubt dissolves not by suppression, but by immersion in the lived state. One powerful exercise is the instant alignment mantra. Whisper softly, "Soham, I am that." With every inhale, so with every exhale, ham. This mantra roots the mind in unity. The self and the desire are not two. Repeat it until the rhythm overtakes you, until the distinction between you and what you seek collapses. A final step, and perhaps the most misunderstood, is release. Once you have embodied the desire fully, once you have lived it in every cell, let it go, not as abandonment but as trust. Imagine dropping a seed into fertile soil. You don't keep digging it up to check if it's growing. You release knowing it must. In the same way, manifestation ripens in the unseen the moment it is embodied. Your only role is to stay aligned, not to chase. But there is a warning here. As you practice, you will notice that not every desire blooms instantly. Sometimes the universe withholds because the request is out of harmony with your higher path. In these moments, trust that delay is not denial. It is protection. The forbidden technique was never meant to gratify whims. It was designed to dissolve illusions and bring forth what is truly aligned with the soul's dharma. So begin with breath. Forge your sankalpa, embody it. Collapse doubt, release. With repetition, you will notice reality bending in small ways first. Synchronistic encounters, doors opening unexpectedly, subtle shifts in energy. Do not dismiss these. They are proof that the ancient current has begun to flow through you. And as your practice deepens, manifestation may no longer feel like something new. To say it will become who you are. The forbidden Indian technique is not about bending the universe to your will. It is about remembering that you were never separate from the universe in the first place. The sages hid it because they knew how easily the human mind slips into greed, fear, and pride. But in truth, this knowledge was never meant to stay buried. It was meant for the soul who is ready to carry it with reverence. We have seen how the ancients described the cosmos as vibration, how intention was not a wish, but a seed of creation, how instant manifestation is possible only when the self and desire dissolve into one. We explored the paradox of release, the union of consciousness and energy, the danger of misuse and the path of embodiment. And we walked through the practical steps: breath, sankalpa, embodiment, alignment, release, that can awaken this hidden current within you. The deeper secret is this: manifestation is not a technique at all. It is a state of being. When your consciousness is clear, your energy aligned, and your heart free of doubt, creation responds instantly because you and creation are not two. The only real barrier is the illusion that you are powerless. So the question is no longer, can I manifest instantly? The question is, am I ready to live as the kind of being for whom reality is no longer separate, but simply an extension of their own awareness? Sit with that. Let it echo in you, because the forbidden knowledge is no longer forbidden once you embody it. And once you embody it, the world will show you how quickly reality can change when you remember who you truly are. If this teaching stirred something within you, share it, reflect on it, and most importantly, practice. The ancient path is alive again, and it waits for you to step onto it.